My good friend Pat Combs. We get to work together on the baseball TV broadcast, and Pat has a new venture that is going on. But good morning to you, and welcome in.
Hey, thanks, John. Great to be with you. And yeah, we get to spend some time together. It's always great to be with you.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And I always enjoy, I always learn when I get to work with you. So that's a fun thing. We'll get to Travel Chapel in a minute, but let's talk baseball first. Bears, as you know, lost last night, that opener of their series at Utah, 8-7. BYU right ahead of them lost. Utah was a game behind. Now they're tied with Baylor. Bears still have some opportunities, though, don't they, to make hay here this week and maybe move up.
Yeah, they do. And I think it's that coveted 8th spot in the standings that keeps you from having to play next Tuesday. So, yeah, if you finish, of course, the top 12 teams in the Big 12 get into the tournament. And then it's really kind of a wacky way that they do it. You and I were discussing this last week where the top 6 seeds get a 2-game bye. So what you think about the teams that finish from 7 to 12 have to play either 2 days or 1 day ahead of those games that are in front of them. So the teams that finish in the top 6 certainly have a great benefit and get rewarded for that. But yeah, Baylor fighting for that 8th spot, which would allow them to not have to play on Tuesday and then start the tournament on Wednesday. But as you mentioned, John, a couple of teams that they've got to get through to do that. They've got to win in Utah. Hopefully they can win that series and jump ahead of them. And then BYU, of course, has a tough series as well. BYU is matched up against Kansas on the road, and Kansas, of course, leading the Big 12. So if BYU gets swept, Baylor can pick up a game or win the series in Utah. That will help the Bears quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Baylor has a tiebreaker against BYU, so that would help. What are your thoughts? You've seen Baylor a lot this year. With the loss last night, they're 500, 26-26. Well, what are your thoughts in general about this team that Mitch Thompson has on the field this year?
Yeah, I think it's a very talented team and very athletic team. We saw a big turnover last year. There were a number of seniors and a couple of juniors that got drafted and moved on. But this year, I think the talent is there. The challenges are just young, and we know in college baseball, older teams typically fare better. And so they've got a couple of seniors that are in the lineup that are playing really well, guys like Travis Sanders, Tice Armstrong. And then they've got, some really, really talented freshmen. Brady Janusek, who just broke the Baylor home run record for freshmen. He is just a dynamic player. He could be a future big leaguer. And then you've got some other players that have really started to contribute as of late. Guys like Dylan Perez, Cole Landcloss, Braden Buchanan, who got in the lineup after J.J. Kennett's injury. But, guys that are really starting to show up and improve as the course of the season has gone on. And so it looks to me, John, like Baylor's got a bright future ahead if they can add some right pieces. And, of course, they're going to have to get in the portal, especially replace a lot of the arms. So we have an older pitching staff, but a really young lineup. So that's so I think the future is bright. It's just going to now be filling in the gaps after the season.
Yeah, I got you. Very good assessment. Appreciate that. What are your thoughts about the league overall? Kansas leading. Kansas baseball is about to win a Big 12 championship. If they can hold off hard-charging West Virginia, which swept KU last weekend and now just a game behind them. Well, what are your thoughts about this league overall this year?
Yeah, the Big 12 is always a really good baseball league. And, you lose Texas and Oklahoma 2 seasons ago to the SEC, but you pick up Arizona and Arizona State, who are traditional powerhouses, from the West Coast. And then, you've picked up some really solid teams along the way as well. Teams like Utah and BYU, UCF. I mean, they have had a tremendous season this year. So, overall, the state of baseball in the Big 12 is very strong. And what you're seeing is more of a leveling of the playing field, especially when you see a team like Kansas at the top of the league. Dan Fitzgerald, the head coach there. I met Dan years ago when he was assistant coach at DBU. Of course, assistant coach at LSU, recruiting coordinator, widely known as a tremendous recruiter. And he's done a great job of hitting that portal hard and finding some great players that he's built around at Kansas. So they've done a great job. Of course, West Virginia, they have done an incredible job as well. You typically look back at the history of baseball in the Big 12, and you think about the powerhouses of the mid 2000s, got teams like TCU who went to the College World Series 4 times out of 5 years when Jim Schlossnagle was there, and they're still top half of the conference. Oklahoma State, a traditional powerhouse, still top half of the conference, but some other teams that you wouldn't have expected have really played well, and it's fun to see. It really is, because you've got I think a much more level playing field, and the battles every weekend. I mean, it's like we talk about SEC baseball being a gauntlet. Well, it's no different than the Big 12. There are no easy weekends in the Big 12 either.
Yeah, man, that's exactly right. So tournament will be fun next week out in Surprise, Arizona. Pat, I want to talk to you and let you tell our listeners and viewers about Travel Chapel. Tell us what it is and where the idea was born.
Yeah, so I've been part of a baseball ministry to major league players, minor league players for about 30 years. So after I was done playing, I wanted to give back and help minister to other guys. And so we've been able to do that through a group called UPI, Unlimited Potential. They've been in the baseball ministry for 44 years now. And so they were the group that former players that ministered to me when I was playing. And so, we have a retreat every January. We bring in the players. There's typically 15 to 20 big leaguers and then some minor league players that come in, and we do a retreat and get to spend some time with those guys. And I just said, hey, what can we do to help fill the gap that we're seeing in youth baseball? And, guys like Paul Goldschmidt, Adam Wainwright, of course, former All-Star major league players, they gave some great feedback and said, hey, my experience was that when I was coming up in youth ball, once we started the travel season, we were on the road every weekend. We were away from our church community. We were away from sometimes even our friends and neighbors. And so, we missed out on church activities during the course of the summer because of all the tournaments and the games we were playing throughout the summer. So they said, if we could just somehow fill the gap there, that would be tremendous. And so we came up with the idea of Travel Chapel, which is an outreach to youth players that are especially playing travel ball or are going to be away from their home church during the course of the summer, but also to even the unchurched folks that maybe they've never even thought about going into a church, but they love to follow their favorite player.
Yeah.
They might even get intrigued by hearing their story or their Christian testimony. And so what we did, John, was we created the first step in this outreach was to create baseball cards. And so hopefully we can see here, that's my card.
There you go.
Yeah, you can see it's a really high gloss, real quality type of a card, just like an upper deck type card you would buy today. On the back is a QR code. And so we're going to give these out across tournaments all over the country. And it's going to be all the players that we filmed during spring training. So we filmed 70 players, 20 big leaguers, about 40 minor leaguers, even 15 Savannah Bananas. And
right.
We put together some really quality film of those guys telling their stories, talking about their lives in baseball, but their lives spiritually as well, how they came to Christ, what they're doing now to, build their faith and be an encouragement to the kids that are out there in the travel circuit this summer. So they'll get a chance to collect a bunch of baseball cards with some of their favorite players, and then that'll direct them to a website and an app that will help lead them through those stories. And then we've also built some devotions that will be released one every Sunday. So, and when I played, we called it Baseball Chapel. A chaplain,
right.
A local chaplain would come in, minister to us before we went out to play on Sunday. And so we're going to have messages, video messages, so virtual messages built for those families to be able to share on Sunday mornings. And then they'll be posted, obviously, throughout the week. And then as players come in, as young players come in and sign up, we're also going to have a lot of other activities and things planned, live sessions with players. And then we'll have a text message that gets sent out every day, just an encouragement message with the scripture. So, yeah, it's going to be our way of reaching back into the youth leagues to help try to bridge that gap.
Man, that is terrific. What a great plan. What a great idea. What an impact that can have. And the cards, didn't you tell me you've printed 10,000 of those cards to pass out?
Yeah, so we printed 10,000 to start with. We know that there are some players that probably be more popular than others, but every player that came through and got filmed, we created 10,000 cards for them. It's our first run edition. I'll tell you, John, what's really, really special about that was when we started talking about this idea with some of the major league players, they stepped up. There were two guys in particular that stepped up and wrote large checks for us to get this kicked off. And they said, hey, we'll take care of all the filming, all the production of the cards. We just want to get this done and get it done right and make sure we have an impact. And so it's really cool to have baseball players, major league guys reaching back down into the youth leagues to create an impact.
Man, I've seen your video and it is very well done. I mean, it's very well produced. So there was some time and money that went into that. So great for those guys, those major leaguers, to step up and sponsor that part of it. Don't you feel like, you say youth baseball, but what about like colleges? Those guys are playing most often Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. They need something on a Sunday, before that final game of the series. This would fit in, I think, very well for them.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't think there's an age limit at all, John. In fact, I think there's a lot of families, dads and coaches and moms that are going to really love the production quality and what we've done here, the messaging. But yeah, certainly college players will benefit as well. There's some great college ministries that are on campus. I know we've at Baylor has the great benefit of having a chaplain assigned, Byron Weathersby, and he's done an incredible job. But yeah, for those colleges that don't have the ability to meet for chapel services before, they can certainly tune in as well. I mean, all these messages are being created by players for players. So it's going to be guys talking about their struggles in baseball and how they overcame and some of the constraints that they face as Christian players and how do you walk through difficulties and things. So yeah, it's going to be, I think, for players of all ages, even some of the professional players may tune in, right? Some of the minor
sure,
the big league guy, right? So great point.
I can see that for sure. Okay, is there a website we could direct people to, or where could they go to find more information and then get access maybe to these videos?
Yeah, thanks, John. So yeah, travelchapel.com.
Okay.
We didn't go the .org way. We wanted to make it, just kind of a universal. So it's travelchapel.com. Or we do have an app built for iPhones right now. We are getting the Android app built, but if you have an iPhone, you can certainly download the Travel Chapel app. And then we've got all the player stories are already uploaded. Guys like Andy Pettit, Paul Goldschmidt, Adam Wainwright. We got some great testimonies there for you. And then the other piece of that is there's going to be a ton of resources available, whether the devotions, the daily activities. So there's a lot there for folks to consume.
Man, that's terrific. That is great. All right, I'm downloading that app as soon as I finish here. All right, I'm going to download that app, and that'll be one more for you there. Well, it was great to see you, and thanks for stepping out in this. You see a need, and you're helping to fill a need, Pat, and I think that's just terrific. So blessings on you and everyone that is a part of that.
Thank you, John. Always appreciate you. Thank you for talking about Travel Chapel today. It's a passion, and I can't wait to see how it goes. But thank you. Appreciate it.
Very nice. Great to see you. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Pat.